Winning against the Florida Gators and getting the Ole Miss Rebels into the playoffs will make Trinidad Chambliss the most beloved quarterback in Ole Miss history. We'll tell you what we mean.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is now the number one sports podcast network in America. Thank you for that. On today's show, we tell you what you need to be watching for on Saturday against the Gators. I know I will be looking at the stadium atmosphere and if the moment is being realized by the fan base and all of that stuff. Next, we will look at some of the keys in this game that will be needed against the Florida Gators, not the least of which is dealing with Jaden Baugh, who is probably one of the better running backs in the Southeastern Conference. But first, we start with the opportunity that Trinidad Chambliss has to be the quarterback that finally kicks down the door and gets Ole Miss into the college football playoff. And if that happens, it will be rarefied air for that young man. We'll explain all of this and more on today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Remember, we're free and available on all of the podcast apps and on YouTube. A special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is, your team every day. So last year was the opportunity for Jackson Dart to become the most beloved quarterback in Ole Miss history. It was a situation to where you just kind of expected it to happen because he broke all of the records. He was massive, but he went and had a clunker of a game down at Florida, as all of you remember, and he is just in the same category as Eli Manning and as Matt Corral and as Chad Kelly, honestly, to where they would be in the pantheon of Ole Miss sports as far as the most beloved go. And remember, when I say beloved, I don't mean the best or the most talented or anything like that. I'm talking about the guy that will never have to buy a drink again. Like as soon as school is open or over, he could open an insurance agency anywhere in the state of Mississippi, and he is going to be absolutely fine. That's what I mean by most beloved. And Trinidad Chambliss has a chance to do that for sure. With a victory over Florida, he can become that most beloved quarterback in Ole Miss history, now currently reserved for Archie Manning, essentially. It's basically been Archie Manning for 60 years because when you look at what could happen with the quarterbacks at Ole Miss, Archie Manning made it to a Sugar Bowl, and then there was the long drought to where he was the last figurehead that it could be pointed to for several decades. That would not necessarily go away, but it would kind of be replaced by the quarterback that kicked down to the door to the playoffs. Each subsequent quarterback that did it, it wouldn't be as big of a deal because it would have been done. But Trinidad, he has had an amazing year this year. When you look at what happened, he was brought in during the summer from Ferris State in Michigan, who has won 3 out of the last 4 national championships or something like that. They have a little bit of a dynasty happening at Division II. And Trinidad Chambliss won that championship, saw the ability to go to Ole Miss and make a name for himself. And he came back down here, and it was going to be Austin Simmons' team. We all talked about Austin Simmons. Everybody talked about Austin Simmons leading up to the season. The first game was quarterback by Austin Simmons. The second game was against Kentucky. And 5 minutes left to go in the game, Austin Simmons went down with an ankle injury. So after that, there's been 8 games that he started full-time, and 4 minutes is what he's done. And if you look at his statistics, they've been pretty glowing, honestly. He's 169 for 264, 2,356 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Trinidad Chambliss has been a blessing. He's been an amazing type player for Ole Miss. And when you look at what could happen with the quarterback position going into the college football playoff and what this game could mean for Ole Miss getting into the college football playoff, because I'm of the opinion that a win over Florida basically clinches it with the results that are going to happen outside of Ole Miss. Okay? You have to take those into account, not the way it sits right now. A win over Florida would basically submit your arrival in the college football playoff. And Trinidad Chambliss, the unlikely hero that came from nowhere, great story. They play Island Time, the AI song that is all over Twitter. They played that in the stadium, the story with him, and all the Trinidad flags. You can see how Trinidad is already a phenomenon. All he needs to do to take that next step is to get Ole Miss into a position that they have never been in before. And making the college football playoff would be that position. We thought Chad Kelly was going to kind of get there because he made his Sugar Bowl, but that was in the age of the college football playoff, so it had kind of become an also-ran bowl. We thought that Matt Corral, because he won 10 games in the regular season, maybe he could reach that plateau. But he wasn't able to do it as well. Jackson Dart going to the Peach Bowl last season had a chance to do it. He had a real chance to do it, was unable to get it done. But is it the little Division II quarterback out of Ferris State in Michigan coming to Ole Miss, taking the reins after an injury and Wally Pipping, the starting quarterback, leading Ole Miss on a run? Listen, Ole Miss is one stop on 4th and 2 from being undefeated, 10-0 right now. That is the rarefied air we're talking about. Lane Kiffin is giving speeches to the team again about how they could be elite. Lane Kiffin knows this team is, honestly, we're going to be real about it, and we're going to say the words, is national championship caliber. This is an awesome ran team. This isn't anything like this. This is one missed tackle away from being undefeated and probably second in the country right now. Absolutely nuts to think about. And Trinidad Chambliss kind of rightly gets the credit for all this, because how is Trinidad Chambliss different than Austin Simmons? How is he different than Jackson Dart? What makes him special? What does everybody notice about this? Trinidad Chambliss is different from Jackson Dart and Austin Simmons in the fact that they spread the ball around. If you looked at games last season, when Trey Harris played, he would have 12 or 13 catches and the next receiver would have 2 because they were force-feeding that receiver the ball. Austin Simmons against Georgia State, against Kentucky early on, look at how much Trey Wallace got receptions in those 2 games. Now, look at the box score of the 8 games that Trinidad Chambliss has started. 8 receivers with receptions, 9 receivers with receptions. The leading receiver has 4, and the 5th receiver has 3. He is spreading the ball around and playing point guard extremely well. I referred to him early in the season. There's some people that got upset about it, but they got upset about it because they didn't know what I was saying, and they took it as the insult that gets thrown around. Oh, he's a game manager. No. I mean this in the biggest compliment that you can give a college quarterback. He is an athletic game manager. Look at how good Ole Miss is in 2-minute situations when they're running the 2-minute offense. Look at how good Ole Miss has been in the 4-minute situations when they're trying to run time off the clock. Look how explosive they can be. Whatever the situation is required, he is coming through with massive flying colors. Now, he's not the most consistent passer in the world. He's not. He can throw a dime now. He can throw an absolute dime, but he's not the most consistent passer in the world. So they're integrating a little bit from what Ferris State did in Michigan into the offense. There's a lot of waggles. There's rolling out. There's half-field reads. There's doing things a little bit different than they did with Austin Simmons or Jackson Dart. And that is working out. I think Charlie Weiss Jr. and Lane Kiffin and Joe Judge and all those guys, they get a lot of credit because they know with what's going on, they can take full advantage of helmet communications. Lane Kiffin mentioned in his press conference yesterday, or Monday, I should say, that Ole Miss leads the country in passing yards since the advent of helmet communication. Think that's a pretty heady stat. That's over 3 quarterbacks when they had Jackson Dart, when they had Austin Simmons and Trinidad Chambliss. Ole Miss has led the country throwing the football. And because of all of this, just winning one game against a team that you are supposed to beat, a team that I've got phone calls about that roster and what's going on behind closed doors in Gainesville. A win against them, and Ole Miss is likely going to the college football playoff. It's like a 95% chance if Ole Miss wins, they go to the college football playoff. And then you have the road game at Mississippi State, and that game could be tricky as all get out. But it's there for the taking if Trinidad takes it. And if he wins that game and kicks the door down, he is going to become the most beloved quarterback in Ole Miss history, in the same vein that everybody loves Stuart Patridge. Stuart Patridge, if he wanted to, I don't know if he drinks or not, would never have to buy a drink in Oxford as long as he lives. Trinidad Chambliss could follow Stuart Patridge down that road. Now, I don't know if he's an NFL quarterback. I don't know if he has a future in the sport. I know that he's trying to get a waiver to come back to Ole Miss next year. And if that happens, the team's going to be pretty good as well. But it'll be interesting to see exactly how it goes and what is happening. I'm pretty excited about what is going on in Oxford, Mississippi, taking a break from all of the coaching search type stuff. This game will be all about some physicality. We'll talk about what Ole Miss needs to do to handle a Gators team that is on the ropes. All of that's coming up next. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow morning. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Well, that's not a problem at all, because Supply House, they have the next day delivery. Talk about a game changer there. The Part Finder tool and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. And their Trademaster perks, well, join them today and you can score stuff like free shipping or priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5. That's all one word, SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's Supply House. Real people, real service. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcast you're listening to, and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but it helps keep all of this for free. And Locked On is getting ready to change the game again, all in the name of having fun following your team. It's coming in December. You're not going to want to miss that. And thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in America. That is pretty cool stuff. Now, some keys to this game, as you might have noticed, we are taking today off from the coaching rumors, which seem to be absolutely everywhere. But we're going to talk about this football game and what it could mean for Ole Miss and how Ole Miss gets past the struggling Florida Gators at the moment. They're kind of on the ropes after getting beat 38-7 to the Kentucky Wildcats. Kentucky didn't punt in that game. And that's weird when you think of a Kentucky offense not punting. So it is pretty interesting to see exactly what could happen. But Billy Gonzalez might have his team completely fired up when they come to Oxford because this is a game that they've been pointing to, and maybe they overlooked the Kentucky Wildcats or something like that. But if that Kentucky game is an outlier, like Lane Kiffin said in his Monday press conference, They're still going to be good, but Ole Miss still should win. Ole Miss is favored by, I think, 15.5 points right now. Let's start with keys, actually. The keys to the victory versus the Florida Gators. Start fast, as front running will be the key to this game. Eliminating hope will be massive this week. Whenever you're dealing with a team with an interim coach, it is important to take their wheel early. You don't want them to feel good about anything. You want them to feel bad and want to be somewhere else. I mean, it's only going to be in the 50s for this football game. I was hoping for 30s, if we're going to be completely honest, in North Mississippi, with having a quarterback from Michigan. That feels like that would have been a little bit of an advantage for the Ole Miss Rebels. But start fast in this game, because front running will be the key to the game. Eliminating hope, it's going to be massive. The other thing is Jaden Baugh will be the dominant feature back that Florida will turn to. Stop him. He's probably their best player, their lone weapon on their entire offense. They're going to be without Dallas Wilson. You saw him in the Texas game kind of take that over from time to time. And they will be without Eugene Wilson, who was the guy that was making big plays against the Georgia Bulldogs. Both of their big play guys will be out, which means that if DJ Lagway gets the start, and I think he will, I think in the beginning of the week, they talked about him taking the number one quarterback reps, which that would honestly be smart. I mean, Billy Gonzalez being the interim coach is great and all. You don't throw a true freshman quarterback in as his first ever start in Oxford, Mississippi, in that environment. I mean, it might work out, but the probability goes way down. And the last thing is, this is a no go for it on fourth down game anywhere. 3 points are as good as a touchdown. Play absolutely clean. No false starts, no turnovers. Any help that you give to the Gators helps give them life. You remember my first key, take away the hope in this game. You get hope by stopping on fourth down, getting turnovers, and the other team committing penalties that forces a punt. Now, I will say this. Ron Roberts, for whatever reason, the defensive coordinator at Florida, has had Lane Kiffin's number over the last 3 stops. There was the Baylor game in the Sugar Bowl that Matt Corral re-injured his ankle and all of that stuff. But even before then, they had a bead on what was going on. There was the Auburn game that Ole Miss ended up winning, but they had some struggle bus moments offensively in that game to get there. Auburn didn't have the defensive firepower to make Ole Miss hurt in that game. And then there was the Florida game a year ago, and Jackson Dart just did not play well. That was the game where the last 2 games, there were a couple of forced passes. They just didn't have it that day. So Ron Roberts has done that to Lane Kiffin, which the question becomes, if he's done it 3 times, can he do it 4? And if you face somebody 3 times, is the 4th time going to be much more tougher to do something like that? It'll be interesting to see, but Ron Roberts versus Lane Kiffin, that's going to be a major, major deal in this football game, and we'll see exactly how it goes. I know I will be watching that, honestly. And so we'll see exactly what happens. You know, in our final segment, we'll give you a few things that we're watching for in this game and talk about why this game just kind of feels different. That's all coming up next. You know, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com and sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Looking at what we're watching for in this game, I think the biggest key is honestly Jaden Baugh. and figuring out how to start quickly. If Ole Miss gets up by 14 points, the game's over traditionally, if you look at it. I don't think Florida has a comeback of greater than 10 points in like 60 years. It's absolutely ridiculous to think about that. But over 10 points is basically over. And that 10-point comeback was, I think, 2015 against Tennessee or something like that. So we will see exactly what happens. Ole Miss needs to get off to a quick start, get it to 2 scores, play defensive football, contain DJ Lagway, all of that, and get out with a W and head down to Starkville in a couple of weeks. Now, what we're watching for in this game, how Ole Miss starts will be a key in this game against the Florida Gators. You know that Lane Kiffin wants to take the opening kickoff of the game and go down and score a touchdown, which that will be pretty much key, honestly. If Ole Miss can do that and start playing on the front foot, it's going to look different because we've seen situations like this. We've been in Florida's shoes. The game in 2011 against Louisiana Tech, to where you got beat 24-3 on your home field by Louisiana Tech. That was the definition of a team quitting on the coach. The game against Kentucky did not look right. You need to take the will to fight away from the Florida Gators. And the way you do that is to be the most physical team and to start quickly. You don't want to play dirty to where they have hope. And you need to play clean. No turnovers, no going for it from 4th down. Last year in the Swamp, taking the field goals, they'd have probably won that game, but they kept doing the J.J. Pegues run thing to the side, and Florida has the athletes to get that stopped up. This year, kick the field goals, play it by the numbers. If you do that, you are likely going to win the game. The defensive line will be one to watch against Florida and Jaden Baugh. We said before the season, this Ole Miss team will go as far as this defensive line takes them. This is a game where the number one weapon that you're going to have to deal with is Jaden Baugh. You need to figure out how to stop him. And if you can do that, you're going to likely stop Florida. That's just the way it works with what's going on. DJ Lagway, if he plays quarterback, he prefers the deep pass. He can do that. I think it's a cloud coverage type game. It's a stop the run type game and see what happens. Force Florida to drive the football down the field. DJ Lagway does do a good job of, really similar to Lenore Sellers, of avoiding sacks to where he's pretty hard to bring down and he can get off passes off platform that's relatively accurate. So we'll see exactly what happens there. Now, the third thing that I'm looking forward to is the electricity in the stadium. I will be watching that. Does the fans understand exactly how their role is defined in this game? Is it just a football game that they're going to? Are they hoping to see a win, or are they willing to affect a win? You go on Game Time, it's nearly $300 per ticket to just get in there. So obviously it's a hot ticket to get there for the last home game of the season. Ole Miss is 21-1 or something like that over the last 3 years, and over the last 5 years, they're like 35-3 or something like that. Home field has been an advantage in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium for Ole Miss, and I expect that the crowd's really going to show up and show out. I think they're going to affect things on the offensive line. That's going to help Prince Will, Amon-Mielen, and Suntarine Perkins get after DJ Lagway. The tackles are going to have a difficult time in that environment. Will Eccles, Xavion Harris, Jam Brown, those guys are going to patrol the middle. And then you have Andrew Jones, who has been a revelation, if we're just going to be honest. He has been a revelation for Ole Miss over the last several weeks, helping TJ Daugherty be a better player. That all helps out that secondary. This defense is, since the Georgia game, listen, the Georgia game, they tried to do the exact carbon copy of the LSU game. And the difference is Georgia can run the football. And Georgia running the football unlocks the rest of their offense. They didn't do what they did to Georgia a year ago, and that was just get after the quarterback and try to force things to happen. No, they played reactionary football, and it came back and bit them. Ole Miss ended up losing that game. But since that game, they quit doing that. They threw it out the window. The last 3 games, they are somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 or 11 sacks so far. They had 6 sacks against South Carolina. They had 3 against Oklahoma. I think they had 2 against the Citadel. So that's 11 sacks overall. And the tackles for loss numbers are going up. They decided, forget this. We are going to play in the backfield, and the secondary is going to have to be the secondary if they were, in fact, protecting that secondary. So we'll see exactly how that goes. If Ole Miss avoids giving up the big play, the chunk plays that Florida needs to be competitive, Ole Miss should win this game going away. They are the better team in this game. The rankings say that. The record says that. Everything says that. It will be up to the crowd to enjoy this moment because, like I said, make it difficult for the sake of making it difficult and make that Egg Bowl in Starkville into a coronation. If you do those 2 things, you're going to be fine and finish the season likely 11-1. 11-1, the best season in Ole Miss history, and Trinidad Chambliss has become the most beloved quarterback in Ole Miss history as well. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we are the front door of Ole Miss. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it's totally free. Your support actually means the world to us. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy breaks down the best conference in all of college sports, from the rivalries to the championship and every game in between. Find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you later.